I mean, what's Pro Football Focus doing? Last week they had Brady. This week they got Brady.
We're literally doing it differently from everybody else.
As a matter of fact, moving forward from this point on, I will not make reference to PFF.
Ready to get into it?
Yeah.
All right. We're going team by team.
I would be very careful about slinging stuff.
Am I going to get sued?
We got legal on this?
Let's send you out on the right note. PFF sucks. Have a great day, everybody.
Wow.
Welcome into the PFF NFL podcast. Steve Palazzolo, Sam Monson. We're live on YouTube. We got a big day today, Sam.
Big day.
Huge day. We're actually going to make a major announcement here on the show. In just a little bit, we're going to talk QBs. We got a fun little segment on quarterbacks. We're going to talk Brandon Aiyuk, general training camp news.
Which is not the big announcement, by the way. Like, we're not breaking Brandon Aiyuk contract news.
Oh, the Steelers fans are going to leave now.
Yeah.
Because there is big, major announcement news on the show today that does not involve Brandon Aiyuk.
Right.
Yes.
Now, if he signs while we're live, we might break that as well.
We would.
But
Yeah.
we're not. We are not slated to be breaking Brandon Aiyuk contract news.
Currently not. What we are slated to tell you about, though, is that as a busy parent, you want to give your kids a head start in their financial future. But investing can often be both confusing and time-consuming. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it easier for you to set up an investment account for your child that grows with them and helps prepare for their financial future. Fabric by Gerber Life was designed by parents for parents to make it easy to plan for and manage your family's financial path. With a UGMA account from Fabric, you can start investing in your child's future today. UGMA stands for Uniform Gifts to Minors Act. So while your kids can invest while they're minors, a UGMA account allows you to invest on their behalf and gives their investments more time to grow. So join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Start investing in your child today at meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. That's meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. MEET fabric.com/PFFNFL. Portfolio is managed by Ford Washington Investment Advisors, Inc. Additional services provided by Apex Clearing Corporation. All investing is subject to risk. Monthly minimum contribution required. Learn more at meetfabric.com.
Nailed it.
Thank you. All right, let's talk about this Brandon Aiyuk situation just a little bit here. Steelers fans are waiting for the news, basically. They're expecting the trade. It does sound like Aiyuk and the Niners. Is it just a frayed relationship here? Because the term, the leverage is for the in the Niners' favor has been, bandied about over the last few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of wonder if the 49ers played chicken with this and have kind of got themselves in trouble doing that. They have the money to make this happen, even projecting forward and, anticipating a monster Brock Purdy contract coming down the line. The 49ers have a ton of salary cap space right now. And even again, with all those deals, they're heavy stocked on top of the market type contracts because, as we've been looking through their roster and things in the offseason, they're heavily stocked in insanely good players. Like, the top end of this 49ers roster is amazing, and it's compensated that way with the exception of Purdy so far and then Aiyuk to come. My point being, they could still make this deal happen, but they haven't. And at this point, it feels like they thought maybe they could play this, like the Bengals have with T. Higgins and string it along, play the kind of moderate guaranteed money, and then eventually once they have to pay him, maybe walk away. But Aiyuk has not played ball so far the way maybe T. Higgins has, and he's in fact gone, no, we're getting paid now or we're not doing this, and I'm looking for a trade. So now that's where they are. They've gone through the draft. They didn't do a deal then. The talk was the Steelers were interested at draft time for potentially either Debo or Aiyuk. That didn't happen. The 49ers did draft a wide receiver in the first round, Ricky Pearsall, who's been banged up and not part of this offense so far. But now we're kind of back, and it's come back around again. Aiyuk seems to be forcing the issue and is further complicating things by apparently turning down various trade destinations.
That was what the rumor was, right? The Browns and Patriots were the team that, again, was rumored to have the framework in place. I know out of New England, the number was reported to be up as much as $32 million a year.
Yeah.
And it was basically turned down, right? I mean, they said, hey, the Patriots are out, but was that Aiyuk just being like, hey, I don't want to go there. I don't care about that.
That's what it sounded
money.
like. And to be fair, from Aiyuk's point of view, in terms of destinations, New England would not be high on your list at this stage, right? Totally new coaching staff, unproven, no idea what that is. New quarterback who's been struggling for the majority of training camp so far, or Jacoby Brissett. And then, okay, you might individually transform that receiving core, right? Right now, it's like a bunch of unproven young guys and guys that are not very good. You put Aiyuk in there as the number one. I think it absolutely has that kind of, Jamar Chase type transformational effect, but it's a weak offensive line. Like from Aiyuk's perspective, it's not a good destination.
I mean, the Washington one is interesting because it is a similar destination, other than I think he likes Jaden Daniels. I think Aiyuk, based off his reports, would want to play with Jaden Daniels. And you also have a Terry McLaurin already there. You already have Jahan Dotson. You would have a loaded receiving core if Aiyuk was added there.
They actually played together, right? Am I correct in saying that? Jaden Daniels has completed passes
Arizona
in
State,
college to Brandon Aiyuk.
Yeah.
That's how crazy their various pathways have been.
Jaden Daniels was a freshman starter at Arizona State during like the Pete Prisco era, when Pete was going to Arizona State. So, yes, they did play together, for a year.
The other one that was intriguing, though, was Cleveland for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think that's a much better destination from Aiyuk's point of view. The offensive line is great. Theoretically, there's big money in a good quarterback, albeit he hasn't played at that level yet for the Browns. And it was a while ago that he played at that level. The receiving core outside of him would be very good. The defense is very good. Like, that's a destination, I would say, other than, cold weather Cleveland. I don't know how much that factors into what he's doing, or I don't know where their contract offer would have been for him. But in terms of on the field, I think Cleveland is a far better destination for Brandon Aiyuk. And that has the intriguing potential from a 49ers perspective of maybe getting something back in return that doesn't make them markedly worse this season. Because their struggle is, well, if we let Aiyuk go, the draft's gone, free agency is kind of done, we're getting worse. There's no way of avoiding that, even with, Ricky Pearsall waiting in the wings to potentially take on a bigger role. Like, if they were able to trade to the Browns and get, say, Amari Cooper back in that deal, I mean, that might be, it's not necessarily a like-for-like sidestep, but it really insulates the decline.
Then it feels like the Niners really screwed this whole thing up, right?
Sure.
Then they misread this whole thing. They're trying to get at least get this one last year out of Aiyuk. What made the Niners offense so special? Brock Purdy at the helm, with McCaffrey in the backfield, with Deebo Samuel and Brandon Aiyuk and George Kittle. And every single week it was like, all right, who are we gonna stop? Who are we gonna slow down? And Aiyuk took that step forward last year where he looked and played like a top 5 receiver and did it with all those other weapons around them. That's what made this Niners offense so special. So slotting in even if you slot in Amari Cooper in there, who's very, very good, new system, adjustment, it's during training camp, just doesn't feel like it feels like, Aiyuk's really calling the Niners bluff here. But at the same time, like, what's Aiyuk going to do if he doesn't get traded?
That's the question. The other big thing here is when you're sort of analyzing what it means to the 49ers, even just this year, there are two different sort of curves that we're talking about, right? Big picture, how much does it hurt the Niners? Big picture, not that much, right? They lose Brandon Aiyuk. He's significant, but you still have Kittle, you still have McCaffrey, you still have Deebo. The offense can still run through any one of those guys and be really good. So they'll still make the playoffs. They'll still be good. They'll still be a contender, whether or not they have Brandon Aiyuk. But they haven't been able to get across the finish line with Aiyuk. The Chiefs, one play here or there. That's the kind of margins that they're missing to win a championship. So can no Brandon Aiyuk be the difference between them winning a Super Bowl this year or not? Absolutely. So ultimately it could be everything for the 49ers this year, who are, not exactly all in, but this is a team that expects to be back in the Super Bowl from the NFC and trying to get over that line. Aiyuk could easily be the difference between that and not.
And just to sum this all up, why are we here for the Niners? Because they have so many good players.
Right.
Because they have so many $20 million and in some cases $30 million level players on both sides of the ball. And then Brock Purdy, who's the poor guy's slumming it with ramen noodles, in his 6-person apartment as the Mr. Irrelevant 7th round pick. He's got to get paid probably a year from now.
Did you see the interview that he did with Jonathan Jones from CBS? Right. Have you seen the state of Brock Purdy at the moment?
No.
He is jacked.
Really?
He's standing there holding the mic like this, right? And it's like just jacked to the gills right arm. It looks like Brady Quinn out there.
Will Levis?
No,
Brady Quinn?
More than Will Levis.
Really?
Maybe not as cut as Will Levis, but like bigger.
I will say this. I don't know what his body structure was last year. He's never had a great arm, Brock Purdy,
Right.
obviously.
I mean, he's got the muscle volume
But
for it now.
if he adds a little bit more velocity, that is the age, right? Like in your
Sure.
23 to 27-year-old.
There's growth potential.
Right. I mean, that's when I increased a few miles an hour, Sam. So you can.
It's when you put the real muscle mass on.
Of course, I went
Here
from
we go. Let's see if we can get this called up.
17 pounds of muscle one off season.
17 pounds
Yeah.
of muscle.
I've since lost it, but I did find it that one off season.
Yeah.
There was also 6 pounds of fat in there.
Okay.
It's a 23-pound off season.
23 pounds total.
It was.
All right. So I'll put it in the chat there. Hopefully we'll be able to pull it up on the graphic sooner or later. But you at least can have a look in the chat right now and see the state of Brock Purdy's right arm and right chest. I assume the left side is the same. It's just from his angle you can't tell. Have you had a look?
No, I was.
Take a gander. I'm trying to bring bring your attention to the work that Brock Purdy has been doing in the gym this offseason.
Good for him. Wow, that's good.
Right?
It's good. He's wearing a tight shirt to really show off.
Really show
Now,
off
the
arm.
bicep muscle is probably the least important when it comes to throwing a football, but
That was Brady Quinn's downfall.
doesn't really matter all that much.
Yeah.
All right, we got to get to our big announcement here in a
Here
minute.
we go. It's up on the screen.
There's-
Boom! Look at that. Gun show.
You're very impressed.
I am. That's some serious work.
It's the opposite of what we used to say about Mac Jones.
Yeah.
dad
Dad bod Jones. This is very much not dad bod. This is dude that's been in the gym all summer, lifting, throwing around iron.
All right, I want to tell you that this show is sponsored by BetterHelp, new sponsor here. In today's hectic world, it's easy to focus on everything except yourself and your own mental health. Sometimes you need a little help to make sure that stays on track as well. So therapy can be really useful to get a better understanding of how your mind actually works and to become more aware of your own patterns of behavior and how to improve them. It's useful for everybody, not just people struggling with something specific. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. BetterHelp is a convenient, flexible, and entirely online way to get therapy that's right for you. You just fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can even switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. So go visit betterhelp.com/PFF today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/PFF. All right, Sam, you ready to do this?
Well, so we're going to get into some quarterback discussion in a little bit. We had an awesome and very long email from somebody that was essentially categorizing quarterbacks into, magician or machine, and we're going to break down exactly what that means and start categorizing some quarterbacks. But before that, it is time for our big announcement on today's show.
All right, getting a little worked up here. Here it is. Sam and I are leaving PFF, starting a new podcast with the 33rd team. Same show, new home. It's a sad, bittersweet type day here, but Sam and I are moving on from PFF. We're going to pass this show along to Trevor Sikkema and others.
Yep.
We're excited for that. We're excited for what PFF's going to do with it, but we're also excited for a new home at 33rd team where you and I are going to move on together in our career and just continue our show in a new place.
Yeah, so, a great opportunity for us and one that we're not going to turn down. I think the best thing for us and our individual families at this stage, we're not as young as we used to be, Steve,
That's right.
You came in a little bit later, but I started doing stuff at PFF, I think in 2008 is the earliest evidence I can find of me doing PFF work. It's now 2024. That's a long time ago. So we've been through the whole startup thing. We've taken this thing from ground zero to where it is now. All 32 NFL teams, all FBS teams, a whole bunch of FCS teams on NBC, all over the place. We've been in there since day one. We started this podcast from nothing. It is what it is now. We're incredibly lucky to have this army of loyal listeners, the millions and millions.
Millions and millions.
About.
That's right.
Hopefully all those guys will come with us. We're not able to bring the feeds with us, but we're going to set up new ones. They're out there right now. I've tweeted it out. The links are there on my Twitter. I shall pin that tweet right now. So go there, subscribe to our YouTube, subscribe to our Apple Podcasts. It's not there yet in terms of if you have an Android thing. I tried Pocket Casts, I think, and it's not showing up yet as a search option. That takes a day or two sometimes to filter through. But the links are there for Spotify, Apple, YouTube as well. Our podcast is named Check the Mic.
Check the Mic.
With Steve Palazzolo and Sam Monson.
That's right.
Check the mic, mic with a C, microphone, See, it's clever. It's really clever.
It is clever.
Yeah?
Full team effort putting
We're
that
good at
together.
naming things.
Yeah, listen, we've been talking about this for a little while now. Again, so much appreciation for PFF. It's been almost 13 years for me. You were 2008, it was 2011 for me. Also excited that PFF has given us the opportunity to kind of, play out the string over here
for
the last couple weeks.
Go out on good terms.
So we got a couple more weeks. We're definitely going out on good terms. They've given us the ability to kind of have a send-off show on August 21st, a final show. And I view it more as a handoff, right? We're going to hand off to Trevor and company. And again, just really grateful for PFF. It's been my whole career, man. Like, I went from playing minor league baseball to working at PFF.
Right.
So it's we've seen each other and our coworkers grow and have kids and get married and do all sorts of stuff during this time. And again, watch PFF grow from just a hobby to a football powerhouse, as I just tweeted out here. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. Special, thanks to Neil Hornsby and to Chris Collinsworth and so many people along the way. We will have a show where I want to honor them properly. I honor the people that gave us the opportunity to be able to grow here for the last decade plus.
NFL, part of the NFL establishment now, the late Dr. Eric Eager is in the chat live, reacting to the news.
He's in the chat.
He's in the chat live.
Can you get to camp or something, Eric? What are you doing, man?
So the chat is also asking, is it the 33rd team on YouTube? It's not. It is Check the Mic on YouTube. Again, if you go to my Twitter account, at PFF_Sam, which will also be changing, there are links there to the new YouTube, the new Apple Podcast, the new Spotify. There's going to be a lot of continuity, though, because we are going to keep using the PFF studio. We've reached a deal to, at least through the Super Bowl, we're going to be using this studio. So we might have some redecoration, some new heads in the background, maybe, some new other things. But we'll be using this studio. We'll continue using PFF data. We helped build this company. We still believe in what's happening here. And hopefully it's on to bigger and better things for everybody.
Yeah, you hit on some of the talking points that I wanted to touch on. We'll discuss the QBs in just a second, but yeah, like, I'm always going to be a believer in PFF. I'm still ready to fight JJ Watt. If JJ starts, what?
You're ready to fight JJ Watt? Have you seen the state of JJ Watt?
I was thinking more like a verbal spot.
Oh, okay. I mean, look, you're a big guy. Getting bigger by the day.
My weight is closing in on his, I'll say.
I'd say your weight has exceeded his.
Maybe going in different directions.
I'm just saying.
I'll still stand up to JJ.
Yeah.
If he talks mess,
You mentioned before, you put on X number of pounds of muscle and X fat. Like, I would say almost certainly outweigh JJ Watt, but he almost certainly has significantly more muscle weight than you do right now.
But I'm a believer in PFF.
Yes.
The grades, the analysis, what we've built, what we've helped build. The very many people that have been a part of that, so we encourage you to continue to believe in PFF the same way that we do.
Yep.
But as you mentioned, it was just an opportunity that we had to take advantage of, and just gives us a little bit of career control and everything. And like I said, I think it's very much the same show, but just in a different home. Check the Mic, YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast.
So that's the bottom line is we'll have a few more shows on these feeds, whether you're listening or whether you're watching on YouTube, and then we will be going to our own Check the Mic audio feeds, YouTube channel. So join us there, listen to both. We urge you to continue to support PFF and listen on this channel, but we are departing. So come along with us and help us do some more awesome things.
All right, so the official departure is going to be just under 2 weeks, August 21st. That's a Wednesday. We're going to have a special show where we'll, I think, a little bit of PFF history, and maybe we'll have some special guests. Who knows? But we'll be able to have a little bit of send off and hand it off properly, and then we'll be off to the 33rd team, going from there.
Let's go.
All right.
We getting into email now?
Yeah, let's get into the email and the quarterbacks.
All righty. This email came in from somebody called Cameron Stevens. And it's got some length to it, but it's worth it. Hello, gentlemen. Hope you're enjoying the offseason. I am of the belief the quarterback conversation needs to be upgraded. For decades, the distinction in quarterback play has been reduced to either game manager or game changer. Game changers are the heroic superstar talents that grace Madden covers, while game managers are essentially quality backups with lackluster tools. The issue is there's no accounting for play style, only general ability. The way I think of it is there are two quarterback styles, machines and magicians. Machine quarterbacks are at their best using their football IQ, situational awareness, and optimized technique to outplay their opponent. Quarterbacks like Brady, Manning, and Purdy take advantage of defensive weaknesses and execute an offense efficiently. Magicians are most dangerous when they follow instincts, trust their athleticism or arm talent, and improvise creatively in chaos. Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, and Mahomes are all at their most dangerous when they can tap into that heroic backyard football bag. Both styles can produce Hall of Famers or duds at the end of the day, and many quarterbacks have traits from both styles. It's important to consider what the player does best when deciding on their style and disregard their overall talent or success. So the two classes, machines and magicians. He says the traits for the magician is thrive in chaotic situations because they rely on instinct and feel, impressive arm talent, creative problem solvers, high-level post-snap processing, dynamic on the move as passers and or scramblers, unpredictable and dangerous. And the traits of the machines, sound, effective mechanics, strong sense of timing, high-level pre-snap processing, accuracy, precision, anticipation, high football IQ, and situational awareness. He's got some player examples, but let me pause in the email and get your initial reaction to that breakdown.
Okay, so I mean, normally just throwing quarterbacks into one of two buckets, I don't like that as a concept. But he prefaced all this. Of course, you have some traits in some areas and some in the other. You share some or whatever. So you're just trying to generalize. We're going to try to generalize quarterbacks into one of these two buckets, right? Okay. So that's fair. I think
then he
that's
has some, yeah.
I mean, it's really just like a glorified game manager versus game changer, isn't it?
Well, so I think his point, though, there is those tend to get used almost as a proxy for just how good you are. Like game managers essentially has become this pejorative for just limited quarterback. Whereas actually what he's saying is you can, if you describe them by style rather than just how good they are, you actually end up splitting these Hall of Famers or elite guys into completely different buckets. Like Mahomes and Brady may end up going down as the best two quarterbacks of all time, and they also may end up becoming the archetypes for each one of these different styles. Whereas if you were like game manager versus game, whatever the other one was, breaker, game changer, each one of Brady and Mahomes would be in the game changer bucket, but in very different ways. So I think there is some merit to breaking them down in that way.
All right, I could buy it. Yeah, the game manager label really started with Trent Dilfer. I think that's when it really started.
Did Trent Dilfer ever manage a game?
I'm just saying, it started with the Super Bowl run.
Right.
Now, look, Trent's a friend. I like Trent.
Yeah.
But his career, a lot of interceptions in his career.
Yeah, which is not managing a game.
No, but on that Ravens run, didn't make a ton of mistakes, right? A few big plays here and there, and the Ravens defense carried it. I think that's when the game manager label started, which was like, hey, just don't screw it up, let the defense go. Then it became almost a negative. And then you have like Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner he loves analyzing quarterbacks, and he hates that term, I believe. I don't want to put words into his mouth because he's like, well, that's the job, game manager.
Right.
But it's like, no, we're trying to label a guy that's not necessarily going above and beyond. He's not going out and winning a game. He's actually just not losing a game. But it did become a negative because, like, did Peyton Manning manage a game? Well, of course.
Right.
Like, in the, most quintessential definition of the term. So, all right, let's get into ranking.
So yeah, well, he has a few kind of case studies before we get into the questions
go
for
ahead.
the various scores. So he's got Josh Allen, right? He's also given these guys nicknames. Josh Allen, who he's nicknamed the Madcap Mage. Allen's cavalier style is exciting to witness. With his physical gifts, it's no surprise when we see him run through a safety or sling a goal line dart while scrambling away from pressure. However, we also cringe when he throws his body into the air to hurdle a 6'4" linebacker and fails, or when the throw into triple coverage turns the ball over. Justin Herbert, the electric executor. Justin Herbert, I almost said executioner. That would have been a very different thing. Justin Herbert has the talent of a traditional magician, but he plays like a machine. He sticks to reading the defense and delivering the ball accurately with little time spent purely improvising. Often, he's called conservative for not utilizing his arm talent to chase big-time throws, but I think his style lends itself to prioritize consistency with tools to push the envelope when needed. Mahomes, the war-forged wizard, a perfect hybrid of machine and magician. Mahomes is deadly because he can methodically dismantle teams with a death by 1,000 paper cuts approach, and he can also throw the ball downfield with velocity while being parallel with the ground. He has an insanely high feel for the defense that makes his wow plays, like no-look passes, possible, but also has the situational awareness to take the check down when it's optimal. Then he's got this thing, a little ending bit, the spectrum. The machine end of the spectrum will tend to seek to find consistent results and keep the offense on schedule and efficient, while the magician end is predicated on success via being dynamic and unpredictable. Machines play within structure, which can be limited by the aspects of said structure, whereas magicians can devolve into abandoning the structure and adopting total chaos, destroying any chance of consistency. Then we have some guys to fit into various buckets.
That's a detailed email,
right?
We appreciate that. No, that's good. As a noted fence sitter here,
yes,
you know I'm going to struggle with this.
All of them, yeah.
But well prefaced that, like, you know, Mahomes is a great hybrid of both. The difference, you know, when we get to, is Purdy on the list of ranking?
He is not.
Because, like, let me just discuss Brock Purdy for a minute. What has been the difference between Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo? Jimmy Garoppolo was very good within Shanahan's system.
Right.
Now, you could argue Purdy's been better within the system, but clearly been better outside of structure. How many times, we're talking about Aiyuk at the beginning of the show, how many times was Purdy rolling to his right, throwing back across his body to his left, and finding Aiyuk? Jimmy Garoppolo was never making those plays. So it's more of that, it's one of those, it's a slider thing type, Sam. It's not either or. It's like, this guy's 80% machine, 20% magician. That's probably how we should be answering these questions, right? As a slider, not as a binary.
Okay, well, let's dive into it. So, quarterback number one, immediately going to cause some controversy. Which is Lamar Jackson?
I mean, obviously he's more magician.
Is he, though?
Yes.
I don't know that that's true.
Because that's what makes him special. I think the magician part of
Is
Lamar,
it actually, though, is it his improvisation versus his overall athletic threat? Like, Lamar Jackson as a designed runner is devastating. And okay, yeah, he's devastating as a scrambler as well, because he's one of the most athletic quarterbacks in the NFL. But say Justin Fields, 100% magician right now. Like, his danger is if and when it breaks down and goes to hell, Justin Fields can still do something crazy. Lamar, when he's at his best, like when that Ravens offense last year went on a run of being basically unstoppable, it wasn't the improvisation, the scrambling, the out of structure stuff. It was within structure. You just don't have an answer to what they're able to do.
So yeah, I mean, the actual description of magician, I believe it's overrated to just say, of course Lamar's a magician, right? The way I did. But I believe his athleticism is what allows him to do the machine stuff, right? So his athleticism, the fact that he is a threat in the design running game, I've said this since his career started, right? The threat of Lamar Jackson opens up the rest of the offense.
Right.
And so if Lamar Jackson didn't have his legs, is he a special pocket passer? I don't know if he's special. He'd probably be fine. He'd probably be good. I don't think he's special. He's special because you have to account more people to have eyes on Lamar Jackson, fewer people to actually be covering receivers. That opens up the entire passing attack. If you said, hey, Lamar, you're just going to be a drop back passer for an entire game like you would with maybe Brock Purdy or someone else, I don't think it works as well. So that's why I'm leaning more magician, even though it's under the guys. It's really the athleticism that helps open up the full game for Lamar Jackson.
And to me, the designed run game stuff would be part of, it would be on the machine side of the spectrum, not the magician side. Like, just being able to be part of a QB keeper is not necessarily a magician type move. Magician to me is more the playing outside of structure stuff. And Lamar, I'm not saying he's bad at that. Like, he's obviously phenomenal at that. But I actually think the majority of what he does is within the structure, even if it's as a design part of the run game as opposed to the pass game.
So where would you put the slide? Because you're absolutely right. I mean, by the definition we're talking about, you and I have been defenders of Lamar Jackson relative to the national media narrative. Oh, Lamar just runs around and makes plays. He doesn't. He can do it. It's not his first game. But my whole point is special athleticism is the foundation that he builds upon his entire game.
Yeah, I mean,
so where do you even put these sliders?
Well, this is the thing, right? It's you're going to have traits of both. So I would say Lamar Jackson's strength is actually not the improvisation stuff. Not that he's not as good at that as anything else.
Like 60-40 machine.
But he does more of the machine stuff than he does the improvisation stuff.
If you put his designed run game in the machine category,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't look like Peyton or Brady or any other, pocket passer, but it's different. It's a different level of like the machine. Like you run QB power and he's getting 7 or 8. He's taking what's there. If you put that into that category, then he's like 70-30 machine to magician.
Yeah, I think that's where he
ranking
is. Like, you're right. It's probably each one of these guys has got to have a percentage in one and a percentage in the other. I think so. My point, I think, would be that greater than 50% of Lamar Jackson's slider is in machine over magician, and that's counterintuitive to what you would think.
Brandon in the chat does have a good point. Lamar is a magician. He disappears in the playoffs.
Oh, that's cold.
That's rough.
That's harsh.
That's a tough one.
I mean, it might be true, but it's harsh.
So you think he's more machine than magician?
I do. I think greater than 50% of his slider would be in machine over magician.
Okay, I can agree with you and buy that, despite my initial reaction.
Trevor Lawrence.
It's funny because I feel like I want him to be better at both.
Yeah.
Right? But I think he's more machine than magician. I don't think the majority of his game is feel and outside of structure. He has elements of both. I think he leaves you wanting a little bit more in both areas as well.
I actually think I would go the other way. I think more than 50% of Trevor Lawrence is actually in magician, and it's the fact that he hasn't been good enough as a machine that's holding him back right now. Like all of his best plays, when you think about it, are a tick late. They're slightly ad-libbed. They're off structure. They're him making an unexpected play. And you look at that highlight reel last year of like almost plays. Almost all of them could have been made if he'd just been a tick better at the machine part.
I don't know. I think that the 3-minute highlight reel of just misses, yes, you can nitpick ball location on a couple or whatever, but my answer is always like, if the guy caught it, you weren't nitpicking it, right? You're only nitpicking it because
but that's like the
someone failed at
antithesis.
the catch point,
Yeah,
right?
but that's like the antithesis of what we're trying to do and have been trying to do here for the whole way, right? Is look beyond just the binary, did he make the play, yes or no, and actually start looking at the process. And it's fair to say you absolutely wouldn't notice it as much if those plays were made. But when you string a highlight reel of them all together, you do notice this common theme of he's late almost all the time on these. And you brought that up when he was a prospect. Like this generational, once-in-a-lifetime guy is a beat late on a lot of this stuff, which becomes a bigger problem at the NFL level than it was at Clemson.
Yeah, his timing was always seemingly off. And mechanically, I thought, and you still get this, like Lawrence will rush too much. And then timing-wise, every now and again, he'll be a little bit too late. I still don't think he's magician enough to have the slider in that category, though.
Okay.
Because now you get into like, I think he's a very good quarterback. I think he's fine. But there's still this standard in my head where I feel like there's more there that makes me not have a strong take either way, but kind of, again, I wish he did a little bit more as a magician. I wish he did a little bit more as a machine, but I still think he's closer to like 60-40 machine to magician.
Okay. QB3, Jordan Love.
Jordan Love. So I think he became machine-like toward the end.
Well, the development in his play last year. So I had a tweet somewhere from I think it was the wild card game, where he made some crazy rolling to his right, turns back around and fires a dart between two converging defenders. It was
a 2-point conversion.
Yeah, there you go.
Was it Dallas?
Yeah. It was because it was the wild card game. Right? And I was like, Jordan Love, when he executed the entire Josh Allen development curve in inside 1 year. He just squeezed 3 years of Josh Allen into an 18-game run, right? And he became that. And I think... So he started off, he was absolutely magician. I mean, that was his MO coming out of college, he's this mercurial, wild, high potential, high volatility type of quarterback. But going from that to the sort of finished state where he was by the end of the year, the improvement was all on the machine side, right? It was like you became metronomic and robotic in the accuracy stuff and the playing within structure, and you've always had the mercurial ability, but the development was in the machine side of things.
So where would you land with Love? Because I still think it's more machine. I mean, where would you put
So
Aaron,
I still think
Aaron Rodgers in his peak? I hate to compare Jordan Love directly to Aaron Rodgers, but a lot of similarities in their game down the stretch.
And Josh Allen is not a bad comp for him either. And those guys were being thrown in the kind of archetype magician bucket early in the description of the email. So I think even though what made Jordan Love better last year was a massive improvement in his machine traits, I think overall his fundamental grounding, his foundation is still in the magician side of things.
Yeah. Man, I'm fence sitting here again.
Shocker.
Same thing. No, because I'm seeing. Here's what I'm picturing with Love. It's the 3rd and longs where he's still in the pocket, and so just like with Lamar, I think it's easy to say because he was athletic and because he runs in the design run game a lot, right, that's magician. But it's really not. That's kind of just the natural part of his game. I think there's elements of that with Love, right? I can remember the 2-point conversion, but I also remember him just sitting deep in the pocket and hitting like Christian Watson on that 3rd down against the Chiefs, Sunday Night Football, up and away from coverage in the back of the end zone, and other throws like that. Yeah, and then there's other ones where he's rolling to his right and boom, putting it right on the front number in the corner of the end zone. So I feel I'm seeing both, but I do think what made Love special there is the fact that the machine stuff overtook the magician part, and 3rd and long and just hitting tight window big time throws within structure feels magician-y, but that's machine-like, right?
Yeah.
So peak Rodgers would do both, but what made Rodgers special is he took care of the machine stuff first and then added magician on top of it, and I think Love is trending more in that direction.
Yeah, I think Rodgers always had more improvisational ability, though, than, say, Manning or Brady or even Breeze, the guys that kind of came before him, quote unquote, or around the same kind of time. The thing that differentiated him was that magician type trait or that magician type tendency to make crazy, ridiculous plays outside of structure, running around. He was more mobile than those other guys as well. If you're describing Jordan Love, I still think you start with that stuff. And then you end up with, and by the way, he's phenomenal inside of structure as well, or at least was by the time his first starting season.
50-50. I'm going 50-50 for me.
Okay. Firmly on the fence. I think Love is still firmly in the
You're going magician
side of things.
Now, listen, someone's trying to steal our thunder here. We made a big announcement that we're leaving PFF, going to the 33rd team, starting the Check the Mic podcast.
Is it Brendan Aiyuk? Is he stealing our thunder?
No, Nick Foles is retired.
Oh, okay.
Super Bowl champion Nick Foles has retired. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Oh, no, that's just if you leave. They're going to be saying that about us.
the late Stephen Sam.
The late Stephen Sam of PFF. So Nick Foles is retired, still the author of 2 of the most incredible runs we've ever seen. The 2013 season in which he had 27 touchdowns and 2 picks under Chip Kelly's first-year offense with Philadelphia, and the 2017 Super Bowl run as the backup to Carson Wentz, where Foles' NFC Championship and Super Bowl, 2 of the best back-to-back playoff games in the history of the sport.
Nick Foles has now authored officially, with his retirement, one of the strangest careers in NFL history at any position. I mean, he has been a bad quarterback who had a phenomenal season and then one of the most incredible playoff runs in league history. Those 2 things should not coexist. I mean, his career baseline should prohibit him from being able to do what he did in Philadelphia the first time and then in the playoff run against some very good teams.
Every other piece of his career was the pinnacle of mediocrity. And
right.
I say that with much respect today, right? People could be saying that about us. You guys were mediocre for 8 years, but you really found your way. But yeah, Nick Foles, those 2 runs in particular were really incredible.
Just absolutely bizarre. I mean, genuinely, his NFC Championship performance and then his Super Bowl performance are 2 of the greatest games ever created by an NFL quarterback in the postseason. And he did them back-to-back with no indication that that was on the horizon. Remember, to the point that he played the week before and wasn't good. Like, that wasn't the first, it wasn't like he stepped off the couch and suddenly, a Joe Flacco type of thing where we just threw him out there and he blew us away with what he could do. It was a bolt from the blue. Like, Foles had played the game before and looked problematic and then just randomly decided to become Joe Montana for the 2 most important games of his career and maybe the Eagles franchise and won a Super Bowl off the back of it, including, Philly special. Just really incredible career.
Congrats to Nick Foles, Super Bowl champion.
Yeah, you almost put him in the Eli Manning category, where I don't know how you ultimately describe that career because there are 2 completely independent aspects to it. There's what was your regular baseline, And then there's what did you actually achieve, which is remarkable. So Nick Foles' baseline, entirely unremarkable. Nick Foles, what did he achieve? He achieved one of the greatest statistical seasons of NFL history from a quarterback and one of the greatest playoff runs in NFL history from an NFL quarterback, including, a signature moment, the Philly special, against a dynastic team on the other side. Just that idea of, can you... Nick Foles, I'm going to put it out here right now. Nick Foles is a Hall of Famer because that's one of the most amazing stories.
Stop it.
If Eli Manning is a Hall of Famer, Nick Foles is a Hall of Famer.
If you use you can't tell the story
Correct.
of the NFL without.
So number one, that's why that's a dumb argument. But number two, that is genuinely one of the craziest stories ever authored in NFL history, is the story of Nick Foles' career. 3rd round draft pick, one of the most crazy statistical seasons ever, then bounces around the league as a backup, ends up backing his way into a starting job when the heir apparent, the future, the great hope goes down hurt, and turns into Joe Montana for 2 games and wins the Super Bowl. Utterly ridiculous career, but amazing story.
It's not a Hall of Famer, though. Stop that. All right, back to our regularly scheduled programming. But yeah, congrats to Nick Foles on a career.
On a career. That's some high praise
with
right
an
there.
incredible story. With an incredible story. And a Super Bowl champion.
Nick Foles on a career.
Great career. Great. How about that?
There you go.
What we got here?
We got 2 more names to rattle off. You ready for them?
I'm ready.
C.J. Stroud.
Machine.
100%.
Instant machine.
Yeah.
But again, what's made him special is
So he's the flip side of Jordan Love.
Magician
right?
edition.
He's the flip side of Jordan Love. The thing that made C.J. Stroud so amazing year 1 is the development or the growth or the hitting the top percentile of his magician outcomes, right? That was a sort of big question mark of his coming into the league, was what happens outside of structure, because outside of that Georgia college playoff game, it wasn't good in college. And that was the thing that had the great jump forward in production. But immediately you would start off, he's the, why do I keep mechanic?
Magician.
No.
Machine.
The machine, that's it. He's the machine.
Drago, he's a machine.
Right, he's the machine who got a lot better at the magician stuff, which is why he became great. That's the flip side of Jordan Love, who was a magician and got a lot better at the machine stuff, which is why he became great.
Yeah, Stroud, here's what really good prospects make you do. They make you rethink, what did you see in the evaluation process, or what should you be valuing? And Stroud was so good mechanically. So as we look back, he was so good with his footwork, being prepared to throw. In his first couple games, they weren't epic or anything like that. Remember the Texans threw the ball like 60 times a game, and they're running Bobby out of town because he doesn't run the ball enough and everything. And but every now and again, it was like, man, he's going through his reads and he's making these incredible throws here and there that kind of foretold the rest of the season where Stroud really found his own. He was so sound mechanically along that machine level of the spectrum. And then he started breaking out Georgia game type stuff. He started breaking out the magician stuff to the point where midseason last year, I said, hey, pump the brakes a little bit. Don't do too much of that, CJ. Your game is still within structure. Don't vacate clean pockets. Don't play out of structure. Don't look to play out of structure too soon. And I thought he started to do that just a little bit. But he is machine first, and adding the extra magician plays on top, that's the part that can make C.J. Stroud go from just, very good quarterback to superstar caliber quarterback. And again, it's been one season for him. Now you got to adjust to the league and do all these different things. But the machine foundation absolutely is the way to describe C.J. Stroud.
Do you think that Walt is going to be the first person in the chat in the new channel? Because I'm curious just how old he is. At the back of our Nick Foles conversation and the greatest story, he reminded us that Jim Plunkett has the most incredible story in NFL history.
So I gave my mom a heads up today.
Oh, yeah?
Like, hey, we have a new YouTube page for Check the Mic.
Right.
And I sent her the link, and she said, do I have to pay for it? Because, it says subscribe there. I said, no, you don't. Just click subscribe for me, please. Thanks, Mom. I wonder if Walt will have those same questions. Like, oh, no, it's,
He's not.
It is free. It's free on YouTube.
Right. He's not quite old enough that his career ended before either one of us were born, but it's in the general ballpark, which means if Walt is old enough that Jim Plunkett was like a contemporary, Walt's pretty old.
I don't know if Walt's coming with us. to the new show.
Really?
I don't know if he is. I mean,
like
he's just sitting here heckling. He's just hijacking the chat and heckling us left and right, and I'm sick of it.
I feel like he has to at this stage. All right, last one. This one's going to be tricky. Joe Burrow.
Is machine first.
Is he?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, same description I would say with Stroud. Special because he just had a play yesterday. He was scrambling around, found a touchdown in the end zone. He has those in him. It's not his game, though.
So I feel like Joe Burrow, so C.J. Stroud and Jordan Love are almost like the opposite sides of the same coin. I feel like Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson are almost the opposite side of the same coin. Joe Burrow gets, I think, bucketed in the Brady, Manning, metronomic, pocket passing, robot type category, whereas Lamar Jackson gets bucketed in the Michael Vick, ad-libbing, scramble, chaos category. And I actually think their default position is the opposite way around. Lamar Jackson's default wants to play within structure, from the pocket, do what's instructed of him, and then when it breaks down, he's got the talent to do crazy things. Joe Burrow, I actually think, wants to ad-lib way more than Lamar Jackson does. Obviously, he's not as athletic or as, crazy gifted running as Lamar Jackson, but I think he's way more inclined to play in that way. And instead, because he's a white guy, he gets categorized as prototypical pocket passer.
I agree that maybe that's the case, right? He actually wants to play outside of structure more than Lamar.
Which makes him a magician.
I think you're no. I think you're also forgetting the number of times Lamar does do the runaround thing.
Yeah.
More
I'm not saying
than
he never does it.
Right? He does it. I would still say, kind of like what I said with Love. What I picture in my head with Burrow is throwing without a great arm, right? Everybody, his arm strength's not great. Some of the downfield passes that Joe Burrow throws in the 20 to 35 yard range, either deep outs, go balls to Jamar Chase, back shoulders, and he is precision and pinpoint. And that's where I think Jordan Love has elements of that, where I'm like, that's the machine, like where the throw is so special that it's not like, I'm dinking and dunking and I'm being a machine. It's like, no, I'm doing it from the pocket within structure and just, hitting an index card down the field. I still think that is the foundation of Joe Burrow's game. But much like Stroud, after that foundation, it becomes special with the runaround instinctive plays.
They say
Burrow has both.
They say that stats don't lie. Stats just tell the truth.
Yes.
Joe Burrow had more scrambles than Lamar Jackson in the 2022 NFL season.
Yeah, there's no added piece of context needed there.
None.
Lamar didn't get hurt. Nothing happened. Nothing. It's fine.
But I will say, yeah.
Let me go back to the sliders really quick. Like, I think Stroud is 90% machine, 10% magician.
Sure.
I would say Burrow is more like 70-30 machine to magician.
Sure. I think he's probably 60-40 magician to machine. I will say, obviously the scramble stat is slanted by the fact that Burrow played in 16 games and Lamar Jackson played in 12. But the fact that Burrow has a high scramble rate, the fact that his sack rate has always been pretty high, particularly late in series, third downs, etc. And he said himself, like, what does it matter if I take a sack on third down? The play, like, that's the play I'm trying to make. It's not an issue. So Burrow, I think that's his default. He wants to play that way. He wants to play hero ball. Like, he understands it's his job to make the play. No one else is going to make it. He wants to turn it into something good, even if it's going to create some chaos, and that's where he thrives. I think Burrow is firmly on the magician side of it, even if he is phenomenally good as a machine.
I think the machine's still the foundation of his game.
You're out of your mind. You're crazy.
There's elements for both with all these guys.
That's why this is a fun exercise.
It is a fun exercise.
Good email.
Who else
That's the list. That's the end of the list. Is there anyone else you would want to talk to?
I mean, where do you put the sliders for Mahomes and Allen?
I think he was fair in saying Mahomes is like a perfect 50-50 phenomenal at both. I mean, really, Mahomes, again, if you were Texas Tech Mahomes, like 100% magician, 0% machine. Current, like, superstar, all-time great Mahomes, perfect 50-50 of why the reason you're unstoppable is the magician stuff is amazing, the machine stuff is amazing. You put it all together, you can't stop it.
Here's the challenge with even using sliders or saying this or that is the majority of plays have to be within structure anyway for every single quarterback, right? So it's really not like if you say this guy's a magician, it doesn't literally mean 60, 70% of his plays are,
Sure.
in
But-
that vein.
But I think Josh Allen is firmly in the magician side of things. I mean, he is not.
I agree. And the fact that he's increased
Yeah.
playing within structure, being a machine, makes him a superstar.
Right.
But
But
he
he's-
wasn't a superstar before. He still had the magician stuff.
Correct. And that's still like the foundation of everything Josh Allen right now is the crazy stuff. It's the unstoppable stuff that you can't touch when he's on on game.
So let me talk about some of the greats that fall into the machine category: Brady, Manning, Breeze, and say Montana. Of course, you would say, they're machines, right? At their best, though, they can improvise a little. Even Brady could improvise.
So
Breeze could
Montana,
improvise.
yeah.
Montana was a running quarterback at one point.
Montana would be the one closest to the magician from
Agree.
that list.
Agree.
Because his improvisation, the catch. Okay, that was the kind of
he
the
made
play.
way more the throwaway.
Yeah, that was kind of the play, but him finding Dwight Clark in the back of that end zone was firmly into the ad-libbing improvisation part of that play by that point, right? That was not exactly how it was drawn up, the sprint right option. He ends up finding that late in the play and making it happen. His most famous play ever on the magician side of the spectrum.
Anyone else to write? The only thing I was going to say about Breeze, Brady, Manning, people remember Peyton at the end of his career and he didn't have a great arm. He could zip it in there earlier in his career when he needed to.
Before his neck got snapped in half or whatever happened to him.
And so magician plays, I think a lot of times you think the runaround plays, but I think what made the Brady, Peyton, and Breeze special from a magician standpoint was subtle athleticism, like a quick reset, quick pocket movement, and then being able to zip it in there into a tight window or whatever it might have been. And so that's magician-y, but not in the same sense that we're describing it. So they had elements of that. That's what made them superstars.
Couple more quarterbacks to run through. Tua.
Who's 100% machine? Okay, let's do this really
Tua.
quick. Okay.
Tua is
he
100%.
100% machine?
He's as high a percentage machine as you're going to get.
My Tua comp coming out, Jimmy G, 100% machine.
Right.
Right?
Tua is probably the closest to 100% machine that currently exists in the NFL.
Who's 100% magician? Is that Fields right now?
Probably.
Where's
Just
John
pure-
Skelton?
No one even knows who John Skelton is.
I did notice recently, you and I need to update some of our...
Right, our references are early
References.
PFF era of a guy that you remember grading back in 2008.
We've got this 2011 to 18 type of references that are slightly outdated now.
Yeah. Okay, here's one. Baker Mayfield.
Oh, jeez. He's Trevor Lawrence to me. Leaves me wanting more because I think there's more in there.
Yeah.
Right? He could be a really good combination of both. But I think he's more magician.
I think that's his
Machine.
default position,
Yeah.
and actually that's his downfall because I think he's far better at the other one.
The magician part is, I think, what made him really good last year with the Bucs.
Yeah.
Every time you were ready to write off the Bucs or Baker, he'd run around and make a play with his legs, pick up first down on the ground.
It's the gritty part of him, but I think he leans into that more than he should.
And where did you compliment Canales last year? Was third and longs.
Right.
Baker Mayfield was super efficient, and it was all right, they were dialing it up, right? They were giving him
first
hit
read.
hit some top of the drop first reads to Mike Evans or Chris Godwin, get it to those guys. And it was almost like you had to induce that out of Baker Mayfield after years of maybe he was trying to play out of structure too much.
Yeah, definitely. It was his ability to make him stay in the machine bucket that I think made the real improvement with him.
Anyone else?
Stafford, definitely magician.
Yeah. He's got more machine than you think, though.
Yeah, I mean,
Remember, you get the whiteboard stuff coming out of Georgia. They weren't just that was when Jamarcus Russell had come out and everything. And a lot of times you had big armed guy, but maybe not as great on the board or whatever it was. And, Russell didn't watch film. But Stafford was getting oh, dude, he's so sharp on the board. He's so smart.
Right.
And maybe our friend Zach said the same. Stafford's got a good feel for the game. He's got more machine than you give him credit for. But, his best plays, man, are just feel and out of structure and, arm talent type stuff. So, yeah, probably more magician.
All right, two difficult ones, and then I think we're out.
Okay.
Jalen Hurts.
I think he's more machine.
I think he
just in a different, in kind of like an uncomfortable way, like hold the ball a little bit longer, but he wants to, it's not an improvisational style.
I think he leans though so much on that he has to be in the magician side of things. I don't know that it necessarily helps him, but he's so ready to scramble. He's so ready to bail on the play and just make a play athletically. I think he almost has to be in the magician side of things.
It's tough to get out of my head how they handled the blitz last year, and I don't know how much to blame the scheme or Hurts.
But I feel like that's it's almost his failing is that he's too much on the magician side of things, because I think that's where he leans when he's in trouble.
Yeah, I kind of cheated a little bit there because I was like machine, but in this magician-y type of style.
Okay, the other one.
Different style. Yeah, who's the other different?
Dak Prescott.
Oh, Dak's more machine.
Yes.
Absolutely more machine.
Yep.
And he has magician to him. And that's what made him a tough eval, right? He came out of a college system at Mississippi State. You had Dan Mullen. Mullen was the same coach Tebow had, right? Running QB power and counter, and there was a lot of QB run game at Mississippi State, so it made it feel like Dak was more of a running quarterback coming out. And then he gets to the NFL, he wants to sit in the pocket and make plays. And then every now and again, he complements it with a nice outside of structure play, make a magician play. He's machine first, though, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, man.
I think we're done.
Bittersweet type of day, man.
Yeah, strange feeling.
It is.
Strange day.
I was getting a little nervous there. Getting a little worked up. I love PFF. I love being here, right? I mean, we'll have a lot of reminiscing, I think, over the next couple of weeks. But, we were there in the early days trying to scream from the rooftops, believe us, right? We got good stuff. We got the grades matter. These, look at our data. Look at this new stuff, and we've seen it grow quite a bit. Yeah,
it's crazy. I mean, we had this sort of PFF, I don't know what we call it, like the AGM, this thing that we had a couple of weeks ago, and seeing a lot of the old people still there. But I have a few years that predates even you. We had these AGMs in Neil Hornsby's front room in a small-ish house in Luton outside of London in the UK. And we were sketching out, this is where PFF could be. We could be, in agencies. We could be in teams. We could be in the media. We had all this thing, mapped out. And at the time, we had nothing, almost nothing. I don't know if we'd even had any form of NFL client at that point. If it was one team buying player participation data or whatever. None of it. And now you look back and we achieved basically everything that was sketched out in that document. And we were just a bunch of post-college kids that Neil had found on a message board to help him come and do this thing. And then with the additions of guys like you and Rick and, everyone else that came on board after, and then Chris buying the company and sort of helping turbocharge it all. It is crazy. Go read Matthew Collar's book for a kind of good background in the history of this. You can find Matthew Collar on Twitter, find the link to his book. It's on Amazon.
I'm going to retweet.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Us on our news here.
Obviously, we're biased and we're, invested in that being a story, but it is kind of ridiculous that a bunch of these guys from the UK and Ireland, and you know the difference with your
of course I do.
With your maps.
Completely different places over in the British Isles. That's right.
It is crazy that front room went and created effectively, the preeminent football analytics company out there that's in every front office, that's in every FBS team, that's, all over national media and stuff. It's crazy. It's nuts. It shouldn't have happened. We're ridiculous for being along on this ride.
I want to be able to tell some of those stories. We'll be able to on our send-off show on August 21st on that Wednesday. I mean, we're still going to cover things from now and then. We're going to, Monday, we're definitely going to be reviewing all the preseason week 1 action. We've got football games all throughout the weekend. But I started to become a fan of PFF in 2009.
Yeah.
So 2009, I was a fan for a couple of years and only joined because, charging $100 for your player participation. I'm going to tweet it out, the early player participation sheets. It showed where everybody lined up on the field in an Excel spreadsheet. I used to, download these things off the website for free when it was free, download them and, just because I was a football nerd back in 2009, and then, eventually ended up joining the company on a whim in 2011. And again, it transitioned. There was a two or 3 week window where I was still a professional baseball player and a part-timer at PFF. And then my baseball career essentially ended, and I transitioned somewhat smoothly into, working here full time for the last 13 plus years. So really never worked a real job in my life, Sam.
Same.
Went from baseball to this and now to podcasting full time, right?
Very different pathway to you, but like I had bounced around a couple of different things, not really knowing what I was going to do. I was in the middle of like a law diploma, thinking I was going to go be a lawyer, and was doing PFF as like a side gig. And then eventually it's like, I don't want to do the lawyer thing. I'm going to do journalism, and then ended up just right time, right place. PFF became enough to get by as a low paying full-time job, and then eventually it became what it became.
Interesting time in NFL media generally as well. I just want to give a shout out to the Around the NFL guys.
Yeah.
Greg, Mark, Dan, the late Chris Wessling. They were like the standard NFL podcast. Started around the same time as us. They're much bigger than us. They had a special thing going. They just broke up the group.
Right.
But Dan and Mark, starting with Underdog, Heed the Call. It's an interesting time in NFL media as there's some change here. But I think the benefit here is for the viewer, for the listener, there's a lot of good football content out there now, right? And I hope that we'll continue to be a part of that for you guys. But I also, what Trevor and the group is going to do here at PFF, what we're going to be able to do with 33rd Team, what Dan and Mark are doing, what Greg is still doing with the NFL. It's just a little bit of turnover. Bill Belichick's joining the scene with NFL media. I think it's an exciting time for a viewer or listener of NFL content.
Yep, and we might potentially be doing some collab stuff with Dan and Mark and the Heed the Call guys.
Yeah, and congrats to those guys on their new show. So, again, just real appreciative of everybody that listens and that watches. Same show, different home. That's us. Check the mic, go find it.
Yep.
Got anything else?
No, just the links are there on my pinned tweet at PFF_Sam for the moment. You can find the link. Spotify, YouTube, it's there on Apple Podcasts as well. It will be filtering through to Android sooner rather than later. So check the Mic podcast with Steve Palazzolo and Sam Monson.
And I'm excited for this Monday. We'll be right back here on this channel reviewing all the preseason Week 1 games.
All the preseason.
Full Week 1 slate here. We will have instant reactions on the rookie quarterbacks. They're either going to the Hall of Fame or they're complete busts. We will have all of the reactions and, of course, overreactions here on Monday morning.
And, of course, all those preseason grades are up there on PFF Plus. So get a hold of that, and you can follow along.
Oh, what's the we get the promo code we got to push here?
Oh, we do. We got a promo code, so you can get 25% off your PFF premium preseason grades for all these guys.
All right, so so the grades are going to come out. Are they going to come out Monday? Oh, it'll be the next day. So you'll get them as early as tomorrow.
Yeah.
The grades as part of PFF Plus.
You have that promo code, or are you stalling until we find it?
I'm trying
to
to
find it. It is NFL Show 25.
NFL Show 25, I'm sorry. So 25% off. Do it right now. So you got Nathan's fantasy rankings, which are awesome.
Yep.
Same fantasy rankings I use to dominate my experts league, right? So that's how you do it. All of the great content. Go dominate your fantasy league. And then the grades are going to come out. So every single preseason game will get the full PFF love, play-by-play, grading and analysis. Games start tonight, so you'll be getting grades updated as part of your PFF Plus subscription every single day this weekend. Mm-hmm. So go do it right now. NFL Show 25% off right now. Go do it. All right, guys. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. We'll see you again on Monday with more PFF NFL Podcast.